Now, for step 2, what we're going to do is we're actually going to take this bracelet, and remember, only the bracelet, definitely not the watch, and we're going to put it in a ultrasonic cleaner. Now I have this really cheap one, which I got for, I think, like 50 to 100 bucks from Jared's, which is a jewelry store here in the US, for my wife and her jewelry. So it's an ultrasonic cleaner. It comes with a solution. Here, I'll show you the one that it came with. And basically, you mix this in there. It shakes everything up really, really fast. And those vibrations supposedly, cause water bubbles and all this stuff right on the inside of where the grime is in between your links and on your watch. I'm sorry, on your bracelet. And that stuff comes off. At the end of the wash, you see a bunch of grime and bits at the bottom of the wash. So we're going to do that, but of course only with the bracelet. You don't want to put your watch in there. It will truly and completely ruin it forever. Well, maybe not forever, but you will need to pay like $1,000 to get it serviced after that, probably, because it'll be pretty effed. Okay, so that's what you can do about the bracelet. So now what are you going to do about the case? Now with the case, what I recommend, again, we're starting with the least invasive, the most gentle approach. So the first thing that I would do is I would take a microfiber cloth, and here's a bunch of examples of microfiber cloths that have come with, like my glasses or sunglasses, and this actually came with a watch service kit that I have, and yeah, any of these are fine. So you just take a microfiber cloth, and you just very, very, very gently, dampen it. So we're talking about like you would maybe if you just wash your hands and you're just drying your hands on it. You just dampen it ever so slightly, and then you just with your bare hands, get a finger back there, and just polish it like that. Just polish your case, and again, just like that, polish it with your hands. And let me just show you actually what the starting point is, right? That'll be useful. So just so you know what kind of scratches we're looking at to begin with, this will give you some sense, so that you know what the improvement is at the end. As you can see, just tons and tons of scratches. You might be inclined to believe those are smudges, but they're just scratches. Lots and lots of them, just tons and tons of swirl marks that have accumulated over time. Like, again, 10 years this hasn't been polished, so I think it's due. So just slightly dampened microfiber, and just make sure to avoid the areas that are textured. But the great thing is with this, it's going to take a while. You have to be patient, and so it actually isn't that important to use maybe a blue painter's tape to seal this off, because really you're not gonna do much on one maybe pass where you brush over those areas, just because this is such a gentle approach that you are not going to be risking doing any damage. Now, in an ideal world, you would remove the movement, you would remove the crystal, and you would literally do the case by itself. But I'm actually very paranoid about opening up my watches. When I do, I I vacuum the room, dust it, run an air filter in it for a few hours, and then on a very clean desk surface, after having showered and exfoliating, and moisturizing so nothing falls off, and wearing like a hairnet, only then will I open up a watch of mine. That's how paranoid I am about getting anything in them. The way I see it, if these things have made it 50, 60, 70 years, it's kind of like my responsibility to make sure that I don't do any damage to them, show them some love and respect. So also it's a lot of work. So that's why, I'm not opening these watches. I'm just polishing them with the bracelet off, but, the movement and the crystal on. But again, with a very gentle approach, like a microfiber cloth, you're going to be fine. You can go ahead and do that. That's not going to be a problem. Next, let's say you're done with that. You try that, and you get your case done with the microfiber. You get your bracelet out of the um, ultrasonic wash, and you do the same thing with the microfiber, avoiding the brushed or otherwise textured areas, of course, because you don't want to polish them. For those areas, what you would probably use is you would use just like a Q-tip and maybe just slightly soapy water, and that's all you would want to use for the areas that are textured. Um, and let's say you've done that and you say, you know what, I am not super happy with the results. I'm willing to go a bit more aggressive. What's the next step? Well, for the next step, what I would recommend is using toothpaste. And again, I think you could use that toothpaste with these Q-tips, or, you know, even, like a microfiber or a terry cloth. And when you use toothpaste, the important thing to keep in mind is that you want to use opaque, uh, non-gel toothpaste. So, for instance, this one has, it's got these red and these blue gels on the outside that mix with the white gel in the middle. I don't know if you can see that. Hang on. Yep, see that? That gel stuff is no good. So this toothpaste is no good. We don't want to use that. That is not opaque non-gel toothpaste. No good. Then we have, let's look at this one. All right, here's one. This looks, oh, yep, that's a bit gel. And not only is that one gel, but that one uses these crystals, these abrasive crystal type things in it to polish your teeth. I'm also going to avoid that. It's gel and it's got these crystal. So that's out. And these are just toothpaste I got from different bathrooms in my house. And then let's look at this one. And bingo, yeah, that's what we want. This is white, plain white, opaque toothpaste with nothing else in it. All right, so this is the kind that you would use. You would apply just a tiny bit of it to your watch, and you would, use a lot. People actually say use a brush. I would not use a brush on a soft metal like 18 karat gold. So I would use the Q-tip, or I would use like a soft cloth, and I would just buff out with the toothpaste. And then once you're done, use a little bit of water and clean cloth to get the residue off, because if you leave it on, I think it'll over time do damage to the gold. So you can use a plain, opaque, non-gel, no inclusions, no crystals, and you can use that, no abrasives, to clean your case. All right, I think that actually is going to get the job done. By the way, also for like an acrylic crystal, you could use a toothpaste for that as well. The same kind of toothpaste. It can do that job. But of course, if you have sapphire crystals, don't do that. That'd be a terrible idea. You're gonna, I don't know if you're gonna damage your sapphire, because it is incredibly hard. But just don't do that. With the acrylic, you can buff out things, scratches. But with sapphire, you don't want to do that. So let's say you've done the toothpaste and you're still not happy. The next step that you can do is you can use one of these, basically polishing clots. Now this is actually the most well-known brand, Cape Cod, and you can see that, so they basically are infused with some chemicals for polishing fine metals. Over here you see it says that you can use it on gold. And yeah, again, do it with your hand and start very gentle. So what you're going to do with this is you're going to basically the same thing we were doing with the microfiber. You apply it over on top onto your watch, and then once you're done with it, what you do is, and actually it just says this on the back, then you're going to buff dry with a soft absorbent cloth or paper towel. I would use a cloth. And that will then take off the chemicals that the Cape Cod cloth has put on, and it'll leave your watch nice and shiny. But just remember, this is a more aggressive process than the other two that we discussed. And so you see this caution they've done for plated surfaces. Rub very gently on plated surfaces, not recommended for use on thinly plated objects. And the truth of the matter is that all watches these days that are plated are very, very, very thinly plated. Now, of course, this is solid 18 carats, so If you go a bit, harder, you're just going to have more gold underneath. But check this out. Gold-plated watches today, we're talking about plating which is 5 microns thick in most cases, as much as 10, but that is really not very much. A few years of just regular use, just rubbing against your skin, is going to wear off that plating. So if you're going to use a cloth like a Cape Cod cloth, you're going to do damage to your plated watch. Now, when it comes to gold-filled or gold-rolled watches, you're working with a significantly thicker coating of gold. Now, this is a gold-filled, which is not as thick as a gold-rolled watch, and I think I'll do a separate video on what those things mean in more detail. But this basically has 80 to 150 microns of gold on top. And so actually, you know what? Given that I don't wear this all the time, I actually wouldn't feel very nervous about maybe, once every 5 years running over with a polishing cloth on it. Though more than likely I would stick with the microfiber, the slightly damp microfiber towels. But again, this is probably 15, maybe more times more gold that surrounds the stainless steel on this watch than on a modern gold-plated watch. Maybe even 30 times thicker coating of gold. So you could mess with this, sure, but and even more so with a watch which is gold rolled. But do not, do not use anything like a Cape Cod cloth on a gold-plated watch. That's just a terrible idea. Frankly, I wouldn't even go more than, maybe 2 minutes with the microfiber on that. Frankly, I might not even polish it because that's how thin the gold is on a modern gold-plated watch. And lastly, what people do when they're not happy with results is they go to like a Dremel rotary tool with a metal polishing buff on it, and stay the hell away from that with gold. And you've seen what can happen, what has happened with the center links, which are supposed to be, nicely textured on this bark finish, and you can just tell that on the insides they have it, and on the outside they don't, because that's what happened to this. And the same thing is true for the case where the rotary tool went over it, just totally destroyed it. And it even did the crystal. It's just a bad idea. Even if you do it on a surface where it's polished, you may, if you have the pressure wrong or the duration you're on top of it wrong, you can alter the curve. You can take off more in one place than another. There are just so many things that can go wrong. So just do not do a gold watch with a rotary tool ever, in my opinion. If you want to do it with stainless, go ahead. But as I showed you earlier in the video, even with stainless, even with a very hardy stainless watch, there are things that can go wrong. So you just want to be very, very, very careful when you're using that. In fact, with gold, just forget about it. I'll do a separate video on maybe the differences between the different gold carats and the different types, pink, white, yellow gold, and the difference between gold plated, gold filled, and gold rolled. But that's the video for taking care of your gold watches, polishing them every now and then. And again, keep in mind, just every now and then, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to be OCD with your fine gold watches. And I hope you've learned something. Thank you for watching.